Okay, especially on that one there, it's got a lot of good information. The other one, the label is all kind of, it's all kind of worn off, you can't really read it. Okay, so for the three-phase, what's some of the information you found on that? What? Yeah. What's some of the information? Tell me some information.
Takes 460 volts, or it says 460.
460 volt?
Yeah, and then it has a slash 200 to 230.
200
Yeah, to 230.
and 230. So there's a slash there, huh?
Yeah.
So it's dual voltage, right? Uh-huh. Anything
Okay.
else on there?
3450 RPM.
Okay, the RPM is 3450, okay. What else we got on there?
Amps is 1.0 slash 1.9 to 2.0.
Okay, so the amps are different because depending on the voltage you're wiring it to, the amps are gonna go up.
That makes sense.
Higher the amperage, the lower the voltage. Higher the voltage, the lower the amps. Ohm's law.
Yeah, Ohm's law.
Okay.
That is correct.
What else you got on there?
Class B insulation.
Oh, look, Class B. Seeing all that stuff there. Class B. Class B, huh? So what's the temperature? What's the maximum temperature on Class B?
It's
266 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. What else we got on there?
Says half a horsepower or a horsepower.
Half horse?
Half.
Yeah, half a horsepower.
Horsepower. 1/2. Okay. Anything else?
What else would be important on here?
I don't know. Got the installation class, got the service factor, got the what?
This would be a three-phase regular.
This right here, let's see, yeah, that. I think one of those.
And then 60 hertz.
What?
60 hertz.
Slash 60 slash 3. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Service factor on there? Should be.
What is the service factor? What's that?
SF. 1.60.
1.6?
Yeah, 1.6.
1.6. Okay. You find enough stuff on there? The frame size on there?
Was that out 56?
L56.
Says FR.
Frame is L56. Frame L56. Anything else on there? Okay. That good? You got a lot of information over there?
Yeah.
Okay, so the frame size, 56, so the 56 frame motor, the dimensions on that motor are up there on that chart back there. So every motor has a frame size, so that tells you, that frame size tells you what size the shaft is, how big the motor is, how tall the motor is, the bolt pattern on the motor, how long the shaft is, all that stuff, and all the measurements of that motor are on that frame size. So that's for mounting. It's also, it tells you everything on that motor that you need to know as far as the mounting. Now, as far as the other characteristics, the electrical characteristics, that's where we come into the voltage, the RPM, the amps, insulation class, the horsepower, and the service factor. Now, the service factor is the reserve horsepower. Reserve horsepower. So, reserve horsepower is the service factor. Is the SF. Okay? So let me explain this to you. So with that, if you're gonna replace that motor, you got all this stuff and you matched everything up, but you did not think to look up the service factor, and suppose it was like the one that was on the PowerPoint, 1.0. Okay? So when you change that motor and you put that, you buy that new motor, stick it in there, it's not gonna stay online. Okay? I know, I've done it many times.
Okay.
Air conditioning manufacturers will do this purposely. They'll purposely put in a motor that you can match everything up, but your motor that you matched up is not gonna work, because they want you to buy the motor from them.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so the service factor, the reserve horsepower, what's our horsepower?
Half a horsepower.
Half horse, here it is, right here, half horsepower. Okay, so that means the one you put in is a half horse. Guess what the one you took out is? You don't have to guess. Your 1.6 times 0.5 is equal to what?
0.8.
Huh?
0.8.
0.8. 0.8 horsepower. Okay, so that motor that's floating around here is a 0.8 horsepower. So what are we gonna replace that with?
0.8 horsepower.
They don't make 0.8.
1/4.
1/4, huh?
I'm not sure. I'm just spitting out numbers right now.
Yeah. That sounds like it.
So 1 horsepower?
1 horsepower. Because what's a 3/4 horse? 0.75, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So you're still a little bit under if you went 0.75, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna go to a 1 horse to replace that half horse motor that you took out. Isn't that amazing?
Would that be like fine doing it like with other stuff too, or is it just with like smaller horsepower and motors?
No, it's actually bigger motors too,
Oh, okay.
so. A lot of times, like I said, a lot of times they won't specify on the motor, cause when the manufacturer says to the motor manufacturer, the unit manufacturer says to the motor manufacturer, I wanna order 10,000 motors, and these are the specifications I want on this motor. I want them to be half horse, but I want a service factor of 1.6 or 1.5.
Okay,
That's the service factor I want. I want this voltage, I want this. And they'll do that. And so when you go to replace that motor, you're looking at this and you replace it, unless you get a service factor, and unless it says on there the service factor, you're gonna run into problems with that.
big problem.
Yeah. Because they want you to buy their $300 motor, when you can go down and buy a half horse for $60 aftermarket, right?
Of course.
So, and this has happened to me where it was actually a 5-ton train unit over, you guys know where Certainty is?
What?
Certainty? Anybody from Chowchilla?
Oh, is this in Chowchilla? I lived there for like, almost young. I didn't explore it, I didn't care about it.
You know where Certainty is?
No.
You know where 99 goes?
Yeah.
Where 152?
It's too young.
Right there.
Okay.
Right there, in between 152 and right when.
Oh, that big factory?
Yeah.
I always wonder I always see it, I never really questioned about it.
Okay, so I was there one day and I placed the motor, I checked the motor would burn out, and I go, oh, okay, it's a train unit, yeah, whatever. So it was a 3/4 horsepower blower motor, so I went and got, in town, got a 3/4 horsepower blower motor. I was back there, the next day. Same thing, motor was hot, wouldn't stay on because it went off on the internal. Well, I take it out and I take it to a motor shop and say, what's this, what is this stuff? And he looks at it, he pulls it apart, he looks at it and he goes, well, what you have here is a heavy duty 3/4. I said, well, what does that mean? Cause I took the original motor to the motor shop. I said, he goes, it's heavy duty. I went, okay. Do you have one? He goes, no, I don't have one with that size shaft. He goes, you're gonna have to go with a 1 horse to replace it. And he says, but finding one with a 1/2 inch shaft is gonna be problems. Most 1 horses have 5/8 inch shaft.
Okay.
So that means that it's not gonna fit the wheel, you know. And he says, maybe bigger too, it may not fit in. Okay, whatever, let me look around, let me check around on this. So I went to another motor shop and I said, do you have a motor with this specification? I need a 1 horse with a 1/2 inch shaft. This many RPM, all this stuff. And he goes, let's look it up. So he finally found one, and the motor that he found was probably about, I wanna say about $165 for that. Okay, by the time I've already gone all to this point, I said, you might as well just give it to me then, I'll take it. So I go back and put that motor in, and I did it just out of spite, just because of Train, because of their proprietary nonsense. Train is like Apple.
Okay.
So I replaced it with 160 horsepower, but still, their blower motor, if I would've bought it from Train, would've been 300 something. So, I really didn't save any money, cause I'd been out there a couple times already. So. But I knew that, but I was gonna go for it anyway. I wanted to replace it with something. And it took me a while, but I got it done. Okay? Alright, so the amps, yeah, we got that. Covered that, covered the horsepower and the service factor, right? Good. And the frame size. We're also gonna look at the frame size. So this is important, to look at, the voltage. Especially on compressors, cause compressors are pretty expensive. So, you don't wanna order a 240 volt compressor, 3-phase, when your power supply is 460. Das ist Feierspuden. And will result in Handschappen. Okay, that's all I got. I'll turn that off.